You know what song's shittier than All She Wants to Do Is Dance?
What?
Lips of an Angel by Hinder.
Yes, absolutely.
We were talking about this for a while. I don't know how this came up, but
I know how it was. So we were
Okay.
talking, and you started just singing it out of nowhere, like you sometimes do, breaking out into song.
yes, I break out into song pretty randomly, which I
Yeah.
need to like be better about on here. But anyway, because like anything, my auditory memory, like what is it, musical memory? I don't know what it is, but if it's like song lyrics, like I could not have heard the song in like 20 years, and I'll just like suddenly sing a whole verse from it if somebody says something that sounds similar to it. So I think that's what happened. I don't
Yeah.
remember. But yeah, that song is god awful, and I don't remember when it came out, but I remember when it came out, I was just so mad. I was so mad. Just it just makes my blood boil. It's just an awful, awful song. On all standards, like his voice is pretty shitty, and just the lyrics are just the worst. Who's fucking walking down the aisle to that? Who's fucking like with their wives and like playing that song?
So many. So I don't know if like we had talked about it or I wanted to bring it up. A lot of people want this to be their first dance wedding song.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And like I don't understand it. So as you know, reading it, it's pretty much about like a guy cheating on his girlfriend.
Yeah. Or like he's been with this girl for like a long time and he just keeps going back to his ex.
Right.
And like they're just romanticizing that. And sadly that's actually kind of a common thing in American life nowadays. But yeah, everybody's like, this is so fucking cool. But if somebody did this in real life, everybody'd be like, wow, you fucking slut.
Right. Like I was reading some of the comments on like YouTube about it because I just wanted to see everybody's take on
you
this.
went to the official video.
I
or
went to
something
the
like that?
video and everyone's all like, yeah, it is really sweet. You know, it's about these people. You know, they're probably husband and wife and they split up and they've both found other people, but they need to go back to each other and they're going to be together in the end.
Oh my
And
god.
that's so sweet. I mean,
thanks Disney.
I mean, I guess that's kind of sweet, but like, what about the other people?
Yeah, and like why did you split up to begin with? Like I think like the big
It sounds like you both are toxic.
Yeah, like if you're going to split up, probably there was a really good reason for that. Like very 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 few times have I seen like two people split up and get back together for the better. It usually they get back together and then they just implode later on. And like when it comes to like a marriage too, like if you have problems before the marriage, like getting married will amplify those problems by 10.
Right.
Like, and I've talked to so many older married people that have told me that that's like probably the one consistent thing they told me, that and don't get married. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. That's just song is so gross, so fucking gross.
And it's like of that whole butt rock genre that was like
I know.
big like 10 years ago or so.
I mean, even before that, I mean, just I don't know.
Everyone's singing in that goddamn voice.
I mean, well,
kind of like Nickelback. Nickelback's butt rock too.
yeah, but he has a different vocal range than the guy from Hinder. If anything, the guy from Hinder kind of calls back to that old like grunge Eddie Vedder, like try to sing deep as fucking possible.
No,
shit.
it's not mumble bands. Mumble band is a completely different like
God.
genre of things. Like mumble band, you've got like Eddie Vedder, you've got freaking Scott Weiland's. They're all doing that like, you know.
Now my paper heart. Scott Weiland got better about it like towards the end of his life.
Right. But you know, that was like a different thing. This is like something different.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're trying to like sing out of your balls or something and it's sounding funny coming out your nose.
Oh God, you're supposed to sing from your balls.
Well, I don't know.
You're supposed to. You're supposed to like. You're not supposed to sing from like your throat or your nose or whatever. I mean, yeah, there's head voice, but I mean,
you know, I'm not articulating my feel very well.
I'm sorry. I do understand what you're saying, but yeah, the lyrics deal with the singer describing his feelings when his favorite girlfriend from his past, calls late at night, somewhat pleasantly interrupting his currently relationship. More than once, a reference to the call being secret is made, and the singer expresses concern of a fight ensuing as a result. The song concludes just as it began, with the singer questioning to why she is calling so late. However, at the end, it is less literal and more figurative, with the underlying meaning of so late, not at night, but too late in life, perhaps adding an element of sadness to the song, as it ends with the plot unresolved.
Find out more.
According to a radio interview done in Atlanta, the lyrics are loosely based on an actual phone call incident that did happen with the fucking lead singer of Hinder. This is just so stupid.
His favorite girlfriend.
His favorite girlfriend. What does that mean? Favorite girlfriend? Like, did this fucker have a harem? This dude just like...
His favorite concubine.
Yeah, I know. That's just what it comes down to. Like,
Jesus
what?
Christ.
Like, what in the fuck? This apparently hit #1 on the charts in New Zealand and Australia, but only hit #3. Oh no, I'm sorry. The top 40, it hit #1 in the U.S. Of fucking course it did. Yeah, this came out in 2006, right after I graduated from high school, so I didn't have to deal with hearing this at my senior prom.
Oh my god.
Which would have been terrible. I probably just would have, like, you know, pulled out an AK and just gunned everyone down.
I don't remember anything that would have been played at my senior prom. Actually, yeah, I do.
Do you?
So, I don't know.
Remember a thing. I remember trying to pass the DJ a Fall of Troy CD, and he played it, and just everybody just stopped and looked around confused. As, like, my friends and I, like, started push pitting, but then they got turned off, like, in 10 seconds.
I remember that the DJ really thought it would be fun to, like, split us up and have us sing, like, Thunderstruck by, like, AC/DC. So they had, like, girls on one side,
Was your
guys
prom
on
in
the
1984?
Other. I don't know, but they did that, and then, like, some girls went and put on the time warp for me because they wanted... you know, me to do the time warp with them, and I ended up like busting like one of the straps on my dress, like doing the time warp.
What is doing the time warp?
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm serious.
Have you never seen friggin' Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I was very young, and the people who liked Rocky Horror Picture Show were a bunch of band geeks and theater geeks that were all like too big for their britches and you know, trying to fuck each other. I don't know.
Goodness. So that was like my favorite movie from like freshman year on. Me and my cousin Shayna would go down to Movie Land in Lisbon, which no longer exists, and we'd rent it constantly. And we like had memorized like all the lines. She would like pretend she was Magenta, who is like this character that looks like French maid, and I would be Columbia, who was like kind of like dressed up like a tap dancer. And oh my goodness, we like memorized the whole song and the dancing parts and everything. And yeah, so everyone wanted me to do the fucking time warp with them, so I did.
I just remember all these kids who are now like super woke saying the phrase transsexual Transylvania over and over and over in high school. I'm like, and I'm thinking back, I'm like, I bet you couldn't say that now. I just, it's just so funny. Just so funny you were saying that shit back then. But anyway.
But yeah, as far as like slow dance songs, like you'd had like, you know, All My Life by Casey and JoJo playing.
I'm waiting for someone like you.
Because
and
like
I get down. I just probably just fucking tack that. Probably just tack that out. That's probably gonna sound awful through someone's speakers.
It's fine. So yeah, it was like flashback to the 90s at my freaking senior prom because I graduated in 2002.
Playing like Back to One by Brian McKnight or some shit like that.
Like I don't know. Like I remember very little. Like we probably. Yeah, I think we did, like, smoke a little pot in the limo on the way. So.
I didn't take a limo. Limos are overrated.
They are overrated. I hated it, actually. So my friend Amanda's stepdad went and, like, his, like, gift to us was to, like, rent us the limo. And, like, you know, a whole bunch of us all just went in it. I got really sick in the limo.
Probably because you were smoking weed.
No. It was because I get car sick very easily. I need to either be driving or in the front seat, preferably driving.
That's me too, yeah.
Yeah, and I sat so that I was sitting backwards in the limo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got so car sick. It was terrible.
My cousins and I, right when we graduated high school, like it was mostly their thing. Like they really wanted to take a limo to Old Orchard Beach, and I was just like, yeah, fine, I'll do it. Yeah, all right, sure. And I did, and it was something. It was all right, but it was just like overrated as shit. Like mostly it's just to like pull up somewhere and get out and have everyone stare at you,
Yeah.
and you feel like you have like the biggest dick in the world. Like just I don't know. I remember like my cousin's boyfriend, like he got out and like everyone was staring, and he's like really like ripped, and he just started unbuttoning his shirt, and he just kind of opened it up while everyone was staring. It was
Jesus.
which, you know, in that situation, I can't really blame him. I mean, how many times in your life do you get like the opportunity to do that? But it's just completely masturbatory. Is that even a word?
It is. It's
yeah.
very masturbatory.
Masturbatory. I don't know. I don't
I
know
think
how
my
one-
dad briefly like drove a limo.
I think my dad briefly masturbated.
Because I remember like there was this time when I came home, and this was when after like I'd already graduated high school, and I was like staying with my biological father briefly, and there was this woman in the kitchen who
this woman.
this woman who clearly was like an older dancer. We'll just say that. And he was driving her around. And
oh my.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
my private dancer.
Yeah.
Dancer for money. Do what you want me to do. You ever hear that song?
Yes, and you sing
Okay.
that actually rather well.
That's not even my singing voice.
It doesn't matter. You do quite a good Tina Turner.
Was that Tina Turner?
Yeah.
Oh. I always confuse Tina Turner with Whitney Houston.
I love Whitney.
I got two fists. I call them Bobby and Whitney because when they get together, they crack heads. I heard that on a battle rap once, and I was just like, Jesus Christ.
God, I listened to like a lot of Whitney growing up because like when her first like album dropped, my mom had that tape, and we listened to it in the car all the time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We grew up in very separate periods despite only being 4 years.
I know, but like
different.
I have a very good recollection of like growing up as a child in the 80s. So
It's just I have a recollection of growing up in the 80s. I mean, I guess 80. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I started school in 89.
That's so weird to think about. That's so weird to think about. When did I start? I was held back before sending to school because my mom wanted to send me a year later. I think I started preschool in 1990. Yeah, 1990 or 91. I think I started kindergarten 92. Maybe 93. I don't remember. I just remember kindergarten my sister was born, so that had to be 93. Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember the 80s at all. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
But I'm still really into them.
I remember like I had this like wooden map, like you have where you put all the states in and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was over at my Oma's house, and it was of Europe. And I distinctly remember we had a East and West Germany that I had to put together.
Oh, my.
And one was the bad side.
Oh, which one was the bad side?
The east side
Oh,
was
really?
the bad
Yeah,
side.
that's the Crip side.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So which one was the one that was just like? So was it West Germany that was just basically like secluded from the rest of the world,
No,
or was
East
that was
Germany
East
was.
Germany? Okay, so it was Flocka from Rammstein said that like Germany was better then, because he's just like, if you were big in East Germany, you were basically the biggest band in the entire world. It was as if you were, and you were successful. Like when the wall came down, it just made things so much harder. And then another example he gave that always sticks out to me is like in East Germany, if you went to a bar and ordered a beer, you got a beer. You didn't get all these questions about like what you wanted or how much head. Like I just hate that shit. I just miss the wall being up. Like I don't know, man. Like a lot of people are like that. Like, I just listen to all these old people that miss Mussolini. I mean, I don't know if they're still alive anymore, but that was a thing. I don't know. We're getting off topic.
We're getting off topic. We're about 15 minutes in. So what are we talking about today, Drewby?
We had a request, did we not, for this one?
Yeah, so Tiffany reached out to me via Messenger the other day and suggested that we do Israel Keyes.
I've not heard of this dude, like, at all. I was not familiar with him at all.
So there are reasons sort of behind that, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the episode. But he does have some ties to Maine. He has a sister that lives in Smyrna, Maine, which is up in Aroostook County.
Which is a piece of shit area.
It is a piece of shit area. I mean, no offense if we have any listeners that live up in the county.
I'm sure if you live in New Smyrna or however you fucking say it, or New Sharon or any of those fucking places, you're just gonna be like, yeah, it sucks here.
So Smyrna is up in the county, up by Holton.
I don't think they have internet up there.
New Sharon is actually near my mother's house.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care.
It's just outside of fucking Farmington.
I don't give a shit. It's all like anything north of Augusta might as well just be the middle of nowhere. No, Bangor is civilization, but it's the last stage of civilization.
Yeah.
No, I worked with a woman at ACS who was from the Fort Kent area, like Bridgewater, like that fucking area, and man, I can't even imagine like a 7-hour drive back home to Fort Kent. Like,
we should like do
Maine
an on location episode there at some point, just to like be like, what the fuck?
I have always so. Being a lifelong Mainer, I'm not born here, but living here most of my life, I have wanted to go see Fort Kent just to say that I've seen it and because I feel like I owe it to the state. However, we have such a shitty highway system. Maine is much bigger than it appears, and it's much harder to get around than it appears. Like, we could, like, if we were to go as the crow flies, we could probably get to Farmington in, like, 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe.
Like, as the crow flies?
Yeah.
Yes.
But given that we have such a shitty road system, it will take 50 minutes.
Yeah, so what people don't really understand about Maine, which is very different from every other state, we have one highway, I-95, with 295, which is just a little bit of a coastal loop.
Yeah.
That, like, attaches, like, from Augusta down to, like, the Falmouth area.
It ends at the Maine Mall in South Portland.
Yeah. So, you can cross over in Falmouth.
Yeah.
But that's basically what we have for a highway system. So you're getting on, like, in Kittery, essentially, and it goes straight up to the west and will follow, like, after Bangor, it will head, or not west, excuse me, east.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes up to Canada that way. So there's, like, this whole humongous portion of Maine that you cannot access via the highway.
Yeah.
You have to go out on all these, like, truck routes.
And I-95 is not a straight shot either.
No.
Like, it does not go straight through as you think it would. It kind of weaves a little bit.
Yeah, it's really, really, really
basically just to get to
Bangor.
Basically just to get to Bangor, and then it just, like, goes back. Because, like, can you get to Holton? You can get to Holton, right?
Yeah, so you can get to all the bigger cities of Aroostook County, so it follows that way. So that
bigger,
so that you can get to Holton, you can get to Presque Isle, and you can get to Caribou.
Yeah, I've never been to any of those places. You've been to Presque Isle. Is that as far north as you've gotten?
Yeah, farthest I've been is Presque Isle.
And how many hours is that from here?
I'd have to, like, look it up. I'd say, like, 5 or 6.
Goddamn, kill me. Like, you could get to Montreal quicker than that.
Yes, you can.
And Montreal's way cooler.
Yep.
You get to Boston from here, like, 2.5 if you really try.
Yeah, like I could, like, definitely get us to Boston in, like, 2.
My record, so driving, like, first thing in the morning, I've gotten to New Haven, Connecticut in, like, just about 3 hours.
Yeah, my record is to Bangor in an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, no, like, at night, yeah, because I've played shows in Bangor. At night, like, done it in, like, hour and a half-ish.
You just have to know where to go and where you can, like, go 100 and not get pulled over.
Yeah.
Usually, like, after Waterville, you're good to, like, just friggin' cruise for a while.
I see more deer up there than anything.
Yeah.
That's what you got to be careful of.
I know. You could just, like, run over a deer.
I ran over a deer last night.
Sure did.
Yes, I did. So when there's a car pulled over on the side of the road, you want to move over to the left to give it room. In some states, this is a law. It's not a law here in Maine, but I do it because, some people stumble around like idiots and just want to get their lives taken. So I move over to the left-hand side, and I see what I think is a plastic bag and maybe like some other stuff near it, and I'm just like, oh, whatever, and then it gets too late and I realize it's a dead deer and I just run over it and it makes this big thunk. My car is fine, but I just ran over a deer that was already dead that apparently that person was pulled over because he hit it, so that was something.
I guess he's not bringing that home.
Yeah, because I just probably like ruined it or whatever.
Yeah, you definitely like probably busted the gut or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. So now the fucking like meat is poisoned, but who knows? Who knows? I have hit a deer prior to this.
I have not, thank goodness. I would probably cry.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Okay, we're getting really off topic, but I'm gonna tell this one real quick. I had taken my mom's Tahoe out without her knowing, and I had my cousin and like somebody was like a little brother to me. And he lived in Leeds at the time, and I don't remember where we were going, but I had to make this like giant loop to like Auburn through Turner and then back into Leeds, and then I would go from Leeds, because he was right on the Leeds-Turner line, into Turner and then back into Greene. So going from Turner to Greene, there was this place they called the Flats, which is like Center Bridge Road, and we were driving, this is like 3 a.m, and my cousin, who like likes to fuck with anything imaginable, especially me, we were driving and he was just like, deer, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up, Nathan, and he's just like, deer, and then like a deer just like jumps out in front of me last minute, and I hit its ass end. It goes like nose over tail, lands on its side, gets up, and then runs into the woods. So I don't know if I killed it, but it's a Frenchie. It's a Frenchie. I bet it costs $8,000. It's very cute. Looks more puggish though.
I know.
Yurgi was showing me a Frenchie. Anyway, let's since we're 21 minutes in, let's actually talk about this motherfucker.
Yeah. So yeah, Tiffany went and suggested this. So
yeah, thanks for suggesting. Hey people, suggest us things. Talk to us. We'll do requests.
Right,
we need ideas sometimes. It doesn't have to be true crime either. We'll bullshit about things.
So before we get into that, I actually like updated the format of some of our social media. I'm not sure if Drewby's aware of it because I did it this morning.
I was half awake.
You were half awake.
I was still having heroin dreams.
Yeah. Right now, our Facebook page
got spun last night.
is literally just for show stuff. Show updates. That is it.
I agree with it because like the memes aren't getting around. People don't really use Facebook anymore, like as far as that shit goes, but people use groups. So I saw you made a group.
Yes.
So
I've made a group where you can have like more listener interaction. You can post things if you want to. Have a lot more back and forth. That's where we can keep the memes. So as far as the Twitter goes and as far as like the Facebook page goes, I've made that just for posting the episodes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Instagram's some more fuck around stuff, which I have to use more.
Yeah.
I do like Instagram, just like I don't check it very often, even my own personal Instagram, and I don't know, like I'm so fucking busy, and I try to pull myself away from my phone as much as possible, but I'll check it more. But yeah, that's going to be the more like fuck around fun stuff, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Like, I mean, everybody does that with their Instagram, but I have actually made like a thread inside of the new Facebook group, which is just the Misery Machine computer. What did I put? Community discussion or something like that.
Yeah. You could just make it the Misery Machine podcast. So it's easier to like search and shit.
Right.
I don't know, but just fucking like we could link that and like. I don't know. I can link that to the YouTube videos.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. But yeah, I made a thread in there for episode suggestions. So we have one in there right now. I'll go ahead and like research it. Chris went and suggested something for us to look into. But thank you, Tiffany, for suggesting something. You're our first suggester.
What? Now I'm curious. What did Chris suggest?
There was a murder down at his college, not when he was there, but it was something that happened down in Alabama.
Okay. Jesus, Alabama.
Yeah.
I want to see every state, but I might not be. Who wants to go to Mobile, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go to Tuscaloosa. No, anyways. I had a friend in Opelika. Here, it sucks there. Anyways.
So Israel Keyes. So this guy was kind of crazy. He was born in Richmond, Utah in 1978. So he's really not that much older than us. He was.
Nah, he's about 10 years older.
Yeah.
Well, than me.
You.
Yeah.
He's only 5 years older than me. So he was homeschooled. He came from a really like religious family. His mom was into all sorts of like crazy type of like Amish type things.
Were they Mormons?
I believe so. I believe they were like part of some sort of sect. Like the Warren Jeffs type sect.
The Warren Jeffs?
No, Warren Jeffs, that crazy like guy who was like very, go out into the desert with your 50 wives that are all children type of thing.
Hey, if you can justify it with God.
Jesus.
So I have relatives in Utah, and I didn't know this because I thought, I bet only some people are Mormon. No, like
everybody is.
Everybody in Utah is Mormon, and I had no idea. I thought it's just like certain sections of Utah are the more like the polygamous sectors and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but like everybody is.
Mitt Romney.
But it's really like pretty out there too. It really is. And
I want to see Salt Lake.
affordable.
I really want to see Salt Lake, and yeah, it is affordable. I wonder if I lived near Salt Lake, if I would just be like, okay, this is close enough to the ocean for me. But I don't know.
I know. I'd like to see Salt Lake, and then there's that place Evermore Park that I like showed you. That's like
yes, yeah.
That I really want to go check out. That's like near Salt Lake.
And you're not far from what's that national park? Yellowstone? No. Yosemite, yeah. I need to fucking see that. Because every time I've gone out that way, I've always skirted around it. And I've been to every state except for Utah where Yosemite is housed. So I really got to go see it.
I'd really like to. And I think like there's like really cheap flights to like Salt Lake City through Frontier like all the time.
Yeah. Or to Wyoming, and you can just get up through there. But
yeah, there's a lot always just to Jackson Hole. But anyway, so they were living in like Utah. Basically they like lived in a cabin in the woods type of thing. He was like one of 9 children. One of the youngest, or if I don't know if he was the youngest, but he was pretty young.
One of 9 children. Yeah, is pretty fucking nutty.
He was one of 9. So like the religious like affiliations his mom had many, she like switched them around constantly. They were very much like the kind of like anti-vaxxer or just don't seek medical help type of religious folks.
Okay, like Christian Scientists or the fucking it's that one that only 40 people can get into heaven, Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah.
So they were very into things like that. Now he started off being kind of fucked up pretty early. He ended up killing his sister's cat because it kept getting into the trash. So he took it out into the woods and like shot it with a .22 and let it just like run around and crash into trees. Oh my God. Yeah. So he kind of, started being fucked up pretty early. The family ended up like uprooting and moving to an area north of Coltville, Washington. Yeah, so Coltville, that's like the biggest. So having lived in Washington, that's eastern Washington. So everywhere in Washington is basically poverty stricken and in the middle of nowhere, except in Kings County, which is around Seattle. The further you get from Seattle, the more impoverished it is. You can go down south or go into these weird areas, and like you can be like a lobster, not a lobster fisherman, like a clam fisherman or whatever. But yeah, this is like far east near Spokane. I've been to Spokane. It's not. It's a nothing town. Like East Washington, West Washington, very different places. Very different. Eastern is more conservative. Western is obviously more liberal. It's like more... that in Oregon too. Yeah, it's like that in Oregon as well. Yeah. So he was also for future, he was known to live in is it Makah Reservation? The Makah Reservation, yeah. In Nia Bay. That's in the Olympic Peninsula, which I'm not very familiar with. I can look that up as you're talking more. So when he was like living out in Washington, his mom got them involved with this like Christian organization, which really was just a white power movement. Yeah. Which I know is quite a big thing up in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, so people would think because it's so liberal up there that there's not a big white power movement, but there actually is. It's huge, especially in Portland. It's giant.
It's giant. Yeah. No, even in Seattle, like drummer of like my old band was had, like told me he had gotten like approached to join some white power group like on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so okay, so the Olympic Peninsula is right across the Puget Sound, which is like the body of water that separates Seattle from like coastal Washington. So over there, it's like weird and backwards over there. Like there's some like pretty places. I've only been there once, and it was there was like really like nice, beautiful places, but also like a lot of poor communities. But from what people have told me that have lived there, it's like kind of a fucked up area, really fucked up area. You got like Port Orchard over there in Port Angeles, but yeah, and the Forks, and yeah, not. I can imagine that they got into a white power group over there. Yeah.
So in 1996, this is kind of where his violent crimes started. He raped a teenage girl in Oregon. Like I believe it was like near a beach. I don't have a lot of notes about it here, but I have been listening to this podcast called True Crime Bullshit. And if anyone is really interested in learning stuff further about Israel Keyes, they literally made a whole like serial podcast just about him, and they get down into the most crazy detail about everything. So if this is something that still interests you after we're done, definitely check them out. I'm on like episode 5.
I just don't know. Like, I guess it must be just a lot of like speculating on what murders he has done and has not done. So, like, as we'll get into, like, this guy may or may not have killed a bunch of people. We don't know.
We don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what they have going on, there's a lot of information out there about him that you can find. There's like almost 7 hours of just FBI interrogations you can listen to. From start to finish on YouTube.
Some of them are interesting.
Some are pretty interesting.
It's very like, I don't know, I like seeing how he deals with cops. He never has his own lawyer. He represents himself, so.
Yeah. So he, I mean, with regards to that rape, I guess the girl the whole time kind of kept trying to make small talk with him, and that really, really weirded him out. But it also, like, helped her out in a way because he didn't kill her.
Oh, really?
He didn't kill her because she kept trying to be friendly the whole time. I guess had said something, you know, to the effect of, you know, you didn't need to do this. I probably would have dated you.
Aw, Jesus.
Like, was just being, like, kind to him the whole time and then hung out with him after. And, like, you know, just tried to...
I wonder if she was like trying to do that to like protect herself, because I have heard stories of people like saying they did that because they thought it would get them out of being killed potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a good strategy.
Yeah.
If you're ever in that type of situation.
Obviously hard, because then you have to like put the panic and the fear and just like all that stuff away and just try to humanize them. I can't imagine. That must take so much strength. But
yeah, but that's what she did, and he actually said in the interview that that was something that like really got to him because he didn't kill her and he wished he had done it.
Why did he wish that he did? Because she reported him after?
No, she didn't.
Oh.
No, she didn't. So later on in life, he did join the military. He was in the U.S. Army from 98 to 2001 at Fort Lewis, Fort Hood, and he did a stint in Egypt. He never actually did any sort of like...
He was never,
combat.
Yeah, he never saw combat.
Yeah, he got out, like, you know, basically as, you know, 9/11 was happening. So while at Fort Lewis, he served on a mortar team in the 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry, 25th Infantry Division.
So he entered the Army in Albany, New York. I don't know why, like what he was doing in New York at the time, because he mostly lived out west.
The thing about this guy, you will see, he is all over the place constantly.
Yeah, he travels a lot.
Extensively. There is, and I can post this in the Facebook group. Tiffany actually sent it to me. And I think I sent it to you as well. There's this like, the shared chart, or I haven't actually like looked deep into it, of, you know, and it was said, it was like something like, have you ever met Israel Keyes?
Yeah,
because
I did see that.
All over the place, and it plots everywhere that he was during that like 14 years.
Yeah, so I mean, I can get into this like a little bit later, but like he would travel just to like make murder kits for himself, and he'd stash
Yes.
them in different locations across America, so that way he wouldn't have to like travel with like a bunch of weapons and weird shit, nor would he have to get them day of, so that way there wouldn't be any suspicion raised, and he would do
Yeah.
this years in advance.
Yeah, and just like a piece also that I heard from one of his like interrogations while he was in Egypt. He committed another rape there, but he was
I mean,
like,
surprise, surprise, a lot of soldiers and Marines did.
yeah, but he's like questionable about whether it really was a rape or not. He felt it was semi-consensual. It was a girl who was of Turkish descent, but was like either an exchange student or someone from like Norway. So it was like a Turkish person living in Norway that had come over, and they actually like met in Tel Aviv. But it was while he was like
jeez.
stationed over there, and I guess like she invited him over to his room, but it got like rough or something. And at that point, he had stated that he didn't want to, if he was going to keep doing that, he didn't want to go ahead and do it with people he knew. He knew it had to be some sort of like anonymous thing.
Yeah, I mean, less likely to get caught that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, your mic keeps falling.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like probably hold it. That's
Or-
fine.
Or just pull it closer. I mean, like I can get into this next part, and I'll actually like.
You can just like
I'll
mess
t-
with my
I'll
stuff.
I'll just tighten it up.
Yeah. So let's see here.
When did you get out?
So I'm trying to like look while you're tightening my mic over here. So he was discharged from Fort Lewis on July 8th, 2001 at the rank of specialist. He was awarded, let's see here, the Army Achievement Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, a marksman's badge with a rifle bar.
I mean, you can get this without seeing combat. These aren't impressive.
Yeah,
things, really.
expert infantry badge and air assault badge. Thank you for fixing my mic.
Yeah, you're welcome. So he like basically was known to have a quiet demeanor, and he just kept to himself. I mean, he was like any old soldier. He would just get drunk on the fucking weekends. His favorite was wild turkey bourbon.
A lot of people like that.
And he was heavily into the music group Insane Clown Posse and had several large posters hanging in his barracks room. So
Of course.
This seems to be a common thing with killers, whoop whoop. They really like ICP.
Which is interesting because, like, based on his age group, you wouldn't think that he would. And if you actually, like, look at videos and pictures of Israel Keyes, he looks like just some, like, 90s grunge guy.
Yeah, he really does.
He looks like he should be listening to Pearl Jam.
Yeah, or looks like he was in Pearl Jam. I don't know, man.
He looks a little like crackhead Eddie Vedder.
Crackhead Eddie Vedder. Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's a good, even for... Okay.
Oh.
It's a right back butterfly. Okay, so when he got out of the military, he basically went back to Alaska. No, he was not from Alaska.
No, he ended up in Alaska.
Yeah,
He
it's just weird, but he ended up in Alaska, and he started a construction business called Keyes Construction, and he worked as a handyman, a contractor, and a construction worker.
Yeah.
So this must have been a really small operation, but
Yeah.
yeah. This is when shit start getting a little murdery.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm going to get into now, that kind of gives you a background, and I want to talk about, like, his known victims at this point. And a lot of it is a little bit wishy-washy, because, and I don't really want to jump too far ahead, but not a lot came out, and he was very, very secretive about how, or like not really secretive, but selective how he gave his information.
Yeah.
So he's admitted to investigators that he had killed 4 people in Washington.
But he won't say who.
He will not say who or where.
And he had no felony criminal record in Washington.
Nope.
He'd been cited in Thurston County for driving without a valid license, but pled guilty to driving under the influence. But, I mean, who gives a shit? So authorities are reviewing unsolved murder and missing persons cases to determine which cases, if any, may be linked to Keyes. And the problem is we don't know if any of that's true or if he's just saying this.
Yep.
Like, sometimes he'll be like... like I remember I saw one thing with him, and he's just like, that lake in Washington.
Yep.
How deep does that go? And they're like 800 feet. Yeah. My fish finder only went down 100.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'd be. Nobody's been to the bottom of that, huh? Yeah, that'd be a really good place to hide a body, don't you think? He would just say stuff like that. Just to get them to like spend like hundreds of hours like searching that place just to come up with nothing.
Right. So he one that he kind of admitted to was like April 2009 in New Jersey. he picked up a prostitute and then drugged her and drove her to Tupper Lake in upstate New York, and strangled and killed her there. That is one he kind of admitted to.
Did he? I didn't think he admitted to that. I thought he just picked her up and then wouldn't like say that he like she disappeared. I don't think he actually said I killed her.
Yeah, I like before you came over, I was actually watching that, so that's why it was like so fresh in my head.
Because like he was only charged with one murder, from what I understand.
Yes. He was like when they brought it up, he's like, I don't want to talk about that one yet. That's what he said to them. But yeah, so he has ties for that there. The one that they have a lot of information on is the couriers. So that happened in Essex, Vermont, and that one we do have a lot of information on.
So he left a murder kit like near their home. I don't know how long ago he had planted it there, but he puts it in a really remote area and buries it deep. So he flew out to Vermont from Alaska, gets his murder kit, rents a car, and then drives to this house in Vermont. And apparently, like, he had selected this house and like knew who these people were ahead of time.
Yeah.
But we don't know how he knew these people.
Right. A lot of it was at random, and that was like the really scary thing that people get weird about with Israel Keyes. Like, he had no like type of person that he was going to kill. It was mostly just like completely at random, and if there was like opportunity. So I do have a correction though on that.
Yeah.
So he didn't necessarily drive there directly. He was visiting his sister in Maine when this happened.
Oh, was he?
And then like drove back and was going to do some fishing in Vermont.
Oh, I see. Okay, so he had a cover story.
And then while he was there, he was like, I'm just going to kill somebody.
Yeah. But but he according to documentary I watched, it appears like he knew the whole layout of the house.
Yes.
He knew what time these people were going to bed. So it's like how, like, especially in that day and age, this is 2009, it's a little hard to like, you know, do surveillance on somebody that far away.
Right. So basically what he did is he kind of like cased stuff out a little bit. It was just like a ranch style home. So a lot of those, the layout's almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
So what he had said in one interview is by the time he had like broken in, it took 6 seconds to be in the bedroom. Like he knew right where to go.
Yeah.
And he had cut the phone lines just in case there was a security system.
And cut the power.
He mostly cased out houses that had no dog, had no indication that there were going to be kids there.
Yep.
So you would just kind of check the yard out. With this particular couple, he just thought it was someplace where like an older couple had lived, where he knew there wouldn't be kids. Like I guess they had like a nice deck, like a pool. It just like looked like, you know, an older couple that, you know, were either empty nesters or there weren't any kids at all.
Yeah.
So with them in particular, he had gone in. I guess they had like a gun in their nightstand, but there was no ammunition in it.
Yeah.
And I guess it wouldn't have mattered anyway because he was in so quickly. But he had bound them with zip ties and went out to a farmhouse. And that is ultimately where they were killed. I guess there was a lot of struggle going on with them, and they kept having issues with the zip ties breaking.
Yeah, like so this was Bill and Lorraine Currier of Essex, Vermont, and Lorraine broke her zip ties and got out and tried to run away, and this didn't go according to plan. So he ran after her, like, I believe hit her with a shovel and brought her back, and then made her watch him shoot her husband, Bill. And then he sexually assaulted her and strangled her at the farmhouse.
Yeah.
Like, what I understand that before this, he was trying to, like, find a way to get money from them.
Yeah, like he every time he went and, like, took someone, it was, like, under the ruse of there was some sort of ransom to be had.
Yeah.
Because aside from his, like, just contracting business, he didn't have a lot of, like, income coming in. A lot of it was odd jobs. It wasn't really consistent a lot with his, because he was traveling so much.
Yeah. And usually when he travels, he travels all cash, so he doesn't leave a paper trail. So he needs to find some sort of way to get cash. And this
so it was either with burglaries. Sometimes he like they think he might have robbed some banks.
He did rob a bank, and I think it might have been in Vermont. It was either Vermont or New Jersey. He did rob a bank.
Yeah. So it was just like through crime is where he usually got the money to be traveling around like that.
He was never arrested for robbing that bank, though, was he? Yeah.
No, he got away with, and it was because he like spread himself out and didn't have like a typical like profile that they could like tie down.
Yeah. How about that, kids? You can rob a bank and get away with it.
Right.
You know what I found out is that if you rob a bank, like the most you're probably going to get is like a couple thousand.
Yep, I can actually confirm that. So they only keep a certain amount of money in the till at any given time, and they constantly change the money out throughout the day. Now, in some cases, they have money hidden under the cash drawer that you wouldn't necessarily see if they were going to try to pull money out.
Yeah, so basically you have to like get them to open the safe, which would require a big team of people.
A big team of people. It's usually under dual control, and is a huge like working at a bank. I know all of this shit. Like I actually had a friend who worked at the Haverhill Mass store for a while, who was a teller. He got held up, and he managed to like trick the guy so he didn't give him all the money that was in his till. Mm-hmm. Like he somehow hid some of it. I don't know how he did it.
Man, I wouldn't do that. No corporation, especially a bank, is worth dying for.
Yeah, the guy didn't have a gun though. He just passed a note type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't give him all the money, and the guy got like almost. I guess he was an idiot, and he had parked at the police station.
Oh my god!
And he got caught almost immediately.
Oh my god! Yeah, that's 10 years in prison.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like there was I've had like two friends like while working for the bank that have gotten held up. One like. And I don't want to say it was like an inside job. It was very interesting how it went down. But they had a door in the back that was unlocked around the time when they were closing. And a guy came in with a gun and held them like at gunpoint. And like took everything. So I don't know.
And was never caught?
It was never caught.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just my friend who was there and her manager.
When you say took everything, including in the safe, or
well, took as much as they could, get reasonably. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what went on with the couriers, and he actually admitted to the couriers, and it's very interesting because the police were harassing his girlfriends because at the time this was all going on, Israel Keyes had a girlfriend he was living with.
Oh, in Alaska?
Yes.
Okay.
So they were bothering her. They were taking all of her possessions, all of her electronics, her phone. They had impounded her car. And,
just to get her to flip.
I don't know if it's to flip or just for like investigation purposes, but they were holding her car for over 2 months.
God, that should be illegal.
So they were doing all this shit to her.
It's not fucking cool.
And he actually felt really bad about it. So he started giving up information and cooperating. So they would give her car back.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so he through Google Maps like pointed them to where this farmhouse was and let them know that they would find the bodies of them in the basement.
Wow. Oh, so the bodies hadn't even been discovered.
They hadn't even been found.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they were like they were in an abandoned farmhouse all that time. So yeah, that's kind of really what happened with that. For those who are interested, they do on True Crime Bullshit. And if you really want to make your way through the 7 hours of his testimony, or not really testimony, but interrogation, he goes into like really, really specific detail about what he did.
Yeah. There's plenty of like all of it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. Very easy to find.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the story with the couriers. Now,
please hit the like button if you're listening on YouTube. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I can tell you. I was just saying, if you're listening on YouTube, please hit the like button, since I'm the one that manages it.
Yes.
It's like, Jesus Christ. I see y'all listening and you're not leaving likes. Just like or subscribe.
Or a comment.
It really, yeah, like or comment, like, subscribe. Just it really does help. It really, really helps. So anyways, go ahead.
So the last known victim was an 18-year-old woman named Samantha Koenig, and this is where he started fucking up. So she was a coffee booth employee in Anchorage, Alaska, and this was kind of like, I don't know if they have them so much around here. I know they have them more out in the Midwest and like out west.
We've had one, and I thought we had one in.
Is there one like in southern Maine?
There was one in Greene when I was growing up. There's like a construction spot there now, but it was like up the road from IGA a little bit, across from the fucking Pine Tree Apartments. There used to be a little coffee booth there that you could pull up into and get coffee, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what we're like talking about, it's about the size of like a food truck trailer, but it's like almost a permanent fixture.
Like if you went to a high school football game, it'd be like those little like shacks
Yeah,
where
like a
like
snack
people.
shack.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah. So she was working there closing up at night. And what basically happened is Israel Keyes came up with a ski mask on, which wasn't completely out of the question.
No.
As it's February in Alaska at night. Of course, you're going to have like some sort of ski mask or balaclava or just something on.
Yeah, it's cold as shit. So he went when they were just about to close too.
Yep. He ordered an Americano.
Yep.
And when she went to go like give him the coffee, he pulled a gun on her.
Yeah. And thankfully, like, nobody else was around at the time, and he told her to, like, hit the lights and open the cash register and sit on the floor.
Yep.
And then he crawled inside
through the window. And he didn't realize there was security cameras in there, but there were, and I don't think he knew about it until he was caught. And then a car pulled up, but since the lights were on, they just drove away. And then what? He zip tied her. He had her put her coat on and
Yep.
zip tied her, and then they both exited, and went into her car and left.
Which he then had to leave her at his house. So he brought her to his house.
Yes, and put her out in a shed.
Which I don't know how his girlfriend didn't notice, but
Yeah,
that's
he
what
left her
happens.
out in the shed. So pretty much.
But he had to go back because he left her phone there and some like loose zip ties. So he went in there, broke back in, and picked up the zip ties and her phone. That was
Yep.
all on video.
Yeah, so pretty much like at that point when he brought her out to the shed, he sexually assaulted her and then killed her the following day.
Yeah.
And then left the body in the shed because he was going on a cruise and he needs to go to New Orleans.
Yeah. And he took her debit card. Now, okay, what
Yeah.
wasn't known about this is that he demanded $30,000 in a ransom, and they gave it to him. They put it in. He said put it in her account, and he did. And so he was leaving like paper trails from using this, but he'd pull it out in different areas of the world. Like he flew to Texas apparently, and pulled out a bunch of money with her cards. So shit like that was happening.
So he went on like a 2-week cruise with his family in the Gulf of Mexico. So
I thought it was by himself. He went with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
When you say family, like, do you know who he went with? Because I was told it was just him.
Really? I don't know. It said family in like the notes that I had like dug up, but he did have some family. He had a girlfriend he was living with.
Yeah.
He actually had a 10-year-old daughter too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With that girlfriend or?
No, I believe it was with somebody else.
Okay.
But when he came back, he actually took her body, who had been dead for 2 weeks, but it's cold there.
Yeah.
Thawed her out a bit with a hairdryer.
And propped up like a newspaper, like that day's newspaper, like of the Anchorage Daily News, alongside her body, so that way it looked like she was still alive.
Yeah,
and that's how he got the ransom.
And there's more to it as well. So he went and like did her hair and put it like in a braid, and then sewed her eyes open, so that it like looked like she was like alive, which is very interesting after 2 weeks being frozen. And then started snapping pictures with the cell phone and then sending them to her parents. Now, how this really all started at one point, he had been sending text messages with the phone to like her family, like basically saying that she needed to get away. And then that's when like the ransom stuff started. He ended up like putting the pictures in a plastic baggie with a note and putting it in a bulletin board underneath a picture of like a missing dog, and then texted the directions to the ransom note to the family.
To like the directions to her body?
No, to the ransom note.
Oh, to the ransom note. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like all this time, the whole family is just thinking the daughter's still alive and like pulling money out.
And they didn't have this money. They did a fundraiser through the community and got the money.
Yeah, but really she was already dead, and then he completely dismembered her, aside from the braid which he kept, and went out to Manatuska Lake, north of Anchorage, and did did some fishing, and then just
fished with her body parts, probably, or
Yeah.
disposed it.
yeah, disposed of her in the lake, caught a bunch of fish, and then brought them home for his family.
Jesus.
So pretty much the FBI reports that he burglarized somewhere between 20 to 30 homes across the U.S., several banks. He could be linked to as many as 11 deaths, but that's all like speculation. Honestly,
mostly his speculation.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back and forth with his MO or lack of MO, really, in his extensive travel, and you could probably tie him to many, 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 like, missing persons if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So really, like, after the murder of Koenig, and the demanded ransom, they were able to track withdrawals from the account as he moved through the southwestern United States. And during the time...
Yeah, they wouldn't release surveillance video of the abduction like, at all. But despite all that, he was still arrested. He was arrested in Texas, actually, like where I said he was pulling out money.
Yeah, and he actually had his 10-year-old daughter with him.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he did.
I didn't know that part of it.
They were heading down to a wedding.
Oh, were they?
Yes, I think it was his sister's wedding.
I thought he was just like traveling around pulling out money.
No,
like...
he had his kid with him the whole time.
Oh, Jesus. So yeah, he got arrested in the Cotton Patch Cafe in Lufkin, Texas on March 13th, 2012, because he, again, used Koenig's debit card, which he previously used in New Mexico and Arizona. So then he was extradited. Oh, I remember how he was caught. Okay, so he was driving down the road.
Yep.
And he was only going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit, was pulled over, and he had the gun, the debit card, and a ski mask out, like, on his passenger side seat, which is why I'm surprised that you said he had his daughter with him.
Yeah, he had his daughter with him.
Because he had all this stuff, like, just hanging out, and that was it at that point.
Yep.
Like he didn't... He didn't even hide the debit card, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what got him. Just going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit. So yeah, careful when you drive after you do some shit, boys.
Yeah. So he actually had a lawyer. It was a federal defender named Rich Kurtner. But the thing is, when you check him out in a lot of the different interrogations, if you will, on YouTube, there's no lawyer present.
No, there's not at all. I think this was just like,
I think it was specific to the Koenig case.
Yeah, this is just a public defender, really.
Yeah.
He was going to be there for the trial, but he's never stood trials. You'll find out soon.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was the only murder that he was charged with, was the Koenig murder.
Yep.
But yeah, the rest of them they were like looking into, and they've posthumously like attributed to him, but nothing was ever charged, and he was never able to.
He would kill far from home. He had those kill kits everywhere. They haven't even found all the kill kits.
No.
And he liked to talk kind of like in riddle to them while he was being interrogated, and would like lead them to rough areas of where some of these kill kits possibly could be.
But I'm not sure that they actually existed there, because I think he was just telling them random places just so that way they would waste man hours.
Yes, he like would brag about it, that he was wasting man hours.
Like I think he was just making shit up to waste their time.
Yeah.
I really don't think that this kind of person would have given up like any of that if he didn't need to. It was only stuff like, oh, they were impounding my girlfriend's car, or one that he really hated. His sister, I think the one that's living in Maine, he's like, I didn't think details were going to get leaked to the press. Like none of this should come out. I don't like how this is being presented to the media. I don't like that her name's being brought into this.
Yeah, and he didn't want his daughter to know any of this or grow up with this like on her shoulder.
Yeah.
So for example, like that podcast I keep referencing, like True Crime Bullshit, that actually comes from a line from his interrogation, because he really hated how like society today had this obsession with all this true crime bullshit and didn't want his story to be part of it. Yeah,
he said that. He's like, I hate how everybody nowadays is just like obsessed with this true crime bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because I didn't know it like really had taken off then, but I guess, investigation discovery was a thing then.
Yeah, so he was like very much against that.
He was also insistent on getting the death penalty.
Yes, he
like,
was.
He was trying to bargain for it. So he was. I believe Alaska has the death penalty. I believe.
No, so he was trying to get tried in Washington.
Yes, that's what
because
it was.
Washington has the death penalty, and he really it was trying to like bargain for like an expedited trial to just get it done and over with.
Yeah.
Like throughout the entirety of his whole like, I mean, it wasn't even trial, but like his questioning, he like really needed to exhibit control of everything.
Yeah.
Like the whole time. So he also had this like boner for Ted Bundy.
Yes, he really admired him.
Yeah, he did.
They were similar in ways.
But like a lot of it was like notably different. Like, you know, Ted Bundy mostly, you know, he had him MO. He was mostly a sexual sadist. You know?
Young, attractive women with their hair parted down the middle.
Yeah.
He's had no type of victim. It seems kind of weird. So, like, someone like him that has no, like, type of victim, when I see them engaging in a relationship, so like he had apparently a long-term girlfriend. So how do you decide, like if you're Israel Keyes, how do you decide who's somebody that you want partnership with and who's somebody that you just want to rape? Like I don't get the difference like in their head. That's something that fascinates me.
But the thing with like Ted Bundy though, he had like a few long-term girlfriends that also like fit his type.
Yeah, that would fit the type that he killed, but he wanted to date them instead of kill them. So I don't, that's fascinating to me because I don't understand like what goes on in their mind to like bring it over to that area for them. I don't know.
So if we're going to move on to why specifically he didn't go to trial, you know, Mr. Keyes decided he needs to keep, you know,
he punched his own ticket.
Some people think he Epsteined himself. I don't think that's really the case.
I don't think. Who is he protecting in the guy? I'm sorry. There's no Clintons he's protecting. There's nobody in British Parliament he's protecting. You're okay.
So
there's no CEO of Disney.
While being held in the jail in Anchorage Correctional Complex, he died by suicide on December 2nd, 2012, via self-inflicted wrist cuts and strangulation. It was actually more than wrist cuts. So you
like dug real deep.
I dug real deep.
Yeah.
He strangled himself like with some sort of ligature.
Yeah.
He had been delivered razors, even though he wasn't allowed razors. That's why there's some speculation out there that, you know, someone meant for him to do it.
I think it was just oversight and just somebody making a careless mistake, really.
So he cut his wrists. He also like dug like into his neck and cut his like artery there.
Yeah.
And cut around his like ankles. And just completely bled out. So a suicide note found under his body consisted of an ode to murder, but offered no clues about where anybody is or if there's anybody else.
Was the ode to murder ever posted?
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, that's...
However, I'm sure it is. Like,
well, I don't know because I wonder if they've like kept it because some of these like murder cases are still open.
Well, some of it's still open, but I mean, I only got to episode 5 of that podcast.
How many episodes are there?
It goes on. He did this for 2 years.
Jesus, I don't
and,
even
like,
know how there's
super deep into it and like spent all sorts of money through like, you know, Freedom of Information Act to like get all sorts of stuff. I mean, seriously, if you guys are actually interested in this guy and want to know more, definitely check that out.
I just don't understand how there's this much information. I mean, like, I guess we have like a different affinity for like type of serial killers. Like we like the people that just like are just create mayhem and just go all out and just overkill.
Yeah,
this guy's a different kind of mayhem. I think what's interesting to him for other people that are interested in true crime and now like after reviewing this and I'm just like, God, why isn't this like that interesting? Like to me, I realize because some people are into the whole like who done it aspect, and I like unsolved murders too. Like the Axeman was like, and the Cleveland Torso Killer are like really like interesting to me. But I think with this one, people are like, well, what about like especially true crime nerds? Like I know some people that like keep track of all these like unsolved murders in different places. They're trying to link Israel Keyes to those murders.
Right.
That's
So
all it is.
it's two very different types of true crime fans. You have Drewby and I who are like definitely like the bizarre overkill people, and that's what we are into. We like the bloodlust. Then you have the people who are like your armchair detectives. And this is like big armchair detective stuff right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I totally get it. Like and I know there's groups out there that spend their time doing armchair detective work to solve murders, and I know that like those groups have solved murders or have led to murders being solved, and that's great. Like I commend those people because you're putting in like so much of your free time,
and you're keeping open like cold cases essentially, independently.
And basically like helping these families like find answers, and that's an amazing thing. Like totally all about that if that's what you're interested in. But with Israel Keyes, like you already know the perp, you know. And with how careful he is and how little information he dropped, I think at best if you find an unsolved murder and you're able to link it to Israel Keyes, it's going to be flimsy at best. You're not going to give any families any answers, I feel.
I know, and it's so hard because you're probably not going to find bodies. He could probably take Israel Keyes and attribute him to so many missing people that we have outstanding in Maine.
Yeah.
Because just like we were talking about, parts of the county, and I'm talking about a rustic county, you can hide a body and no one will ever find it.
Yeah.
There are whole majority sections of Maine that are just woodlands, that are just lined off by numbered townships where people don't live.
Yeah. Or if they do, it's like literally like on my way to Calais, population 3. There's no power lines out there, nothing. People don't go patrol out there. The game warden's not out there unless they're called. Like it just exists.
But I'm talking northwest, like north of like Jackman.
Yeah, no,
like that way.
No, I'm just saying like
Yeah.
my experience. Like even on the way to Calais, there was that shit. So imagine in like these whole stretches where it's just still unclaimed territories. It's not even like state preserve area.
No, like they refer to it as like disorganized territory or unorganized. I don't know how they like refer to it, but it's
kind of crazy to think that in like 2019, like there are places in the US that are just unclaimed, like Wild West basically shit that you could do anything on and no one will ever find it.
Yeah, nobody would ever find you there.
Yeah. So, thank God we're a ways away from that. But yeah,
6 hours.
Yeah, I know. But in Alaska, and I would think parts of Washington too. Not so much Washington. I mean, I haven't seen a good ton of Washington, but I would like to think there's parts of Washington where you could get away with that too. Alaska, you especially can. You especially can. But yeah. If you're willing to take the time to like cut a body up and chum it, like yeah, you can spread it across the lake and it'll never be found.
My God, at that point, just take it out to sea.
Yeah, you could do that too. It depends on where you live, you know.
Like if you're in like Alaska.
But if you take it out to sea, you're more likely to like get your boat checked. Like there's more people around at sea, and you could run into the Coast Guard. Coast Guards do random checks sometimes. Especially if they think you're operating as an unlicensed fishing vessel, you know what I mean? Because, you know, you always got to give Uncle Sam his due, so they always want to make sure if shit's above board. So it's actually better you go on a lake, because then at that point, you know, you just need a state fishing license for states that you need them. I don't think all states require a fishing license. Maine does.
Yes.
But, yeah, I just would think that there's less bullshit that could happen there. Yeah, you dump something at sea, like the sea will destroy everything, but I think you have to be out like deep,
really far,
deep waters.
I mean, like think of like what is it, like Lacey Peterson? Scott Peterson brought her out to sea, and she still made it back to shore.
Yeah, she did. So I mean, that's why I'm saying like don't dump a whole body, like chum it up first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
wood chipper.
Always feet first through a wood chipper. Do you know why you always send them feet first through a wood chipper?
Because it hurts more.
Well, yes. You want to see the look on their faces.
Yes.
So, anyways, always use cash and fake IDs. do we have anything else to say about this?
I mean, not necessarily specifically with Mr. Keys here, but yeah, this is our listener suggestion. So definitely suggest more stuff for us to do.
It's kind of nice to have these suggestions and not have to, like, I don't know, it feels a little more rewarding that I'm doing this for somebody else. So, yeah, give us more suggestions. And as far as housekeeping's concerned, you're still trying to get the address to write to Brandon Thongsava, right?
Yeah, so if anybody has that or can point me in the right direction,
yeah, please do
please
that.
do, because
yeah, we really would like to talk to him, or at least make him known that we, covered his case and totally see like the bullshit that happened to him. But yeah. Other housekeeping notes. We got reviewed for Apple Podcasts, so that's currently pending. It takes a while to approve. Like, I know somebody with 110,000 subscriber base on YouTube, and he's still complaining about how it's taking him months for Apple Podcasts to review and publish his stuff. So this could take a while, but we're at least under review. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
I know, that was a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, if you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, just search us on YouTube, the Misery Machine podcast, and just like and subscribe. Please, if you could just take time to do that, because if I get enough subscribers, if I get enough likes, I can make an actual like hyperlink for our YouTube channel, which will be cool, and it just helps us show up more on the suggested viewings and on the algorithm and stuff.
Speaking of which, on
Yes.
YouTube, one of our videos has sort of taken off out of nowhere, and we have no idea how it happens.
So the Ukrainian murders, I can't really say the name, but the Hammer Brothers, that one is getting a bunch of views every day, and I think last I checked we were like
over 700, yeah.
And it just took off recently too. Like that video was like we don't, most of our views don't come from YouTube, but this one just randomly started taking off, and I looked at the analytics, and it said it was from an external posting, and I can't find where it was posted. And I've scoured the internet to try to see if I can find the hyperlink on any message boards or any weird shit like that, and there's nothing. So I don't know what this is, but, I'll take it.
I'm happy about it. Like, it's really cool to go in every day and see how it's climbed.
Yeah, if you got referred here through that, like, just leave a comment and say what's up.
Or say where you found it. Like,
Yeah.
right now we're at 729 views.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that's not a lot in the grand scheme of
But it's
things,
like
but it's our best performing YouTube video, and I think
It's our best performing video or podcast at all.
Yeah, so I'm just curious. Like I said, I'll take it, but I'm just curious. But anyways, other than that, join the Facebook group, and write to us on our Instagram page. I'll try to be better about checking it. I promise I'll try to be better about checking it.
Yeah,
you can talk to me, not just Yergi too.
Yeah, so the only other housekeeping thing is recently we had mentioned it before on our last episode, but I was of the impression that The Misery Machine was already taken on Podbean. It was
yes.
not.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes,
Yeah.
I discovered that The Misery Machine was not taken on Podbean, so we're now themiserymachine.podbean.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that if you're going to go to the direct link, that is where you go.
That was updated, yes.
Yes.
So
that's all I've got.
Okay, cool. So I guess until next time then. Bye.
Bye.